Welcome to this episode of Safe Home Podcast for struggling teens and their families finding their healing path. I am Beth Syverson. I'm an adoptive mom of an 18-year-old son, Joey, who's been dealing with drug addiction and mental health issues for several years. I'm walking beside him as he struggles with his recovery while I work on my own personal growth and healing. In this episode, I'll be talking with an adult adoptee, Rebecca Autumn Sansom, who is a strong advocate for adoptee voices. She's recently produced a documentary film called Reckoning with the Primal Wound, which juxtaposes her own powerful adoption story with the wisdom of Nancy Verrier, who wrote The Primal Wound, the book that is considered to be the Adoptees' Bible. Rebecca lives in Ithaca, New York, and in addition to her work as a filmmaker, she also owns Blonde Records and Blonde Artist Management, where she focuses on artists who have traditionally been marginalized in the music industry, women, non-binary people, and people of color. You will love Rebecca's energy as she shares her story with us. Welcome to Safe Home, Rebecca. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, Beth. It's an honor to be here.
Great.
I love your podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. I loved your film. I've seen it all the way through twice now. And I also loved the book it was based on, The Primal Wound. It had a huge impact on me about 5 years ago when I read it. And I was like, what? It really woke me up to adoption trauma. So how did you get the idea to merge your story with Nancy's book? How did that happen? Did you already know Nancy already? How did that occur?
Oh, yeah. I did not know her, but like you said, reading the book kind of shook me, of course, and was the first time I'd heard an alternate narrative about adoption. Mm-hmm. And that was huge. Of course, growing up, it was just not a thing we talked about, but adoption is love. And
yeah, you were chosen. It's all good.
Mm-hmm, all those societal
so
platitudes.
Lucky.
So, to hear that maybe I would be experiencing grief and loss from like breaking my lineage was huge and explained a lot of who I was. And then I'm a filmmaker, and a couple of adoptees in my family were on the struggle bus 4 or 5 years ago. And I really wanted them to read the book, but that wasn't happening. You know, it's hard to get anyone to read something that they don't pick up themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one thing I like to do and have done with my other films is bring kind of academic work to another audience. Oh. So if you're not going to read like these studies on passenger rail, I made a movie about like passenger rail and high-speed rail.
Wow.
And like highlighted this awesome work that you're not going to see unless you read academic journals.
Yes.
So it made sense to me to try to bring the Primal Wound into another medium, into film.
That is so great, because there's a lot of people that just don't read. They're not big readers.
Increasingly.
And Primal Wound is no walk in the park. It is it's not technical and difficult to read, but it's difficult emotionally to read. And
yes.
And it hits you. And so I can imagine, although I really think people should read the book too, but your film will bring the book to a much wider audience, and it makes it easier to digest maybe because it's shorter. It only takes, what is your film, an hour and a half?
Yep.
So I really think you're going to get the information out there. And then people will be like, well, I want to read this book now after seeing Nancy in the film and wanting to go deeper. And, people that might wake up and they call it getting out of the fog, right? Mm-hmm. When adoptees or adoptive parents, as the case may be, realize, oh, no.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you're saying that as an adoptive parent. And it's really interesting to hear what adoptive parents think about it, because I did leave. I mean, my parents are in the film. Mm-hmm. And so I think that adoptive parents definitely do have a seat at the table. A lot of people think adoptees should be centered in the narrative of adoption. Mm-hmm. I totally agree with that. But definitely. I also think that adoptive parents were misled and have a seat at this table to talk about preconceived notions that they were led to believe about adoption and
absolutely
had no idea what they were getting into. So
yeah, totally. From my own experience, I had zero support as far as I was infertile, and that's why we went toward adoption, because we wanted a kid. But no one helped me say, Beth, maybe you should really grieve your infertility first. maybe you should look at that. Nobody said, you know what, we're handing you this child and he might have some, difficulty at different stages and you might want to look into getting him some help with this. No, it was just like, here you go, have fun. And we just felt so good about ourselves. And we thought, okay, we've got our family. Joey's got us. We have him. It's all hunky dory. So I did not get the support, but that doesn't mean I don't still feel really guilty. I constantly struggle with it. That's one of the reasons we made this podcast and why I bring people like you on and talk about adoption as much as I can, because I really want that narrative of, adoptees are just lucky and they got chosen. I want that to go away.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we both are on the same page with wanting to prevent as much suffering and pain as possible. And that's certainly what I want to do. And that's why I keep having ideas of ways to get adoptees off the struggle bus. So when we have a screening, I'm totally dedicated to giving 10% of the proceeds to an adoptee, to 2 adoptees, or maybe I'll start doing 3. I don't know. I just love it so much. And then they have to commit to self-care with those funds.
I think that's such a great way to encourage adoptees to take care of themselves and give them a little piece of it. It's like, that's such a nice thing. I don't think
people realize how many adult adoptees are on the struggle bus or are on and off it. And I keep using that term, but I just love it. And it really resonates with me. And just if you aren't set up to know, okay, my parents I don't even know, maybe they were told that my brother's birth mom was an addict, but they just thought that doesn't 100% mean he's going to be. So let's never, ever address it.
So your brother was adopted as well?
Yes.
But he's not your biological brother.
Right.
Is it separate?
Same thing. My parents had infertility issues and adopted, because that's the perfect solution.
Yeah, I know. And when is your film screening again?
My film is screening again on February 26th.
Very good.
Soon.
Yeah, it'll be next week when this airs. Yeah.
And I actually love options. So after the first screening that we hosted in January, I realized that maybe watching it in community wasn't the best thing for some people. So you can rent it this month. And I will send you a 24-hour link that you can watch on your own. And then you can still come to the screening that we do that Nancy will be at. And we're going to do breakout rooms instead of
nice.
A Q&A with all the people, because I think that could be better too, to
a little smaller
make
group.
Smaller, more intimate, maybe more direct and productive rooms with cast members, including myself and Nancy and some other people who are in the film.
Yeah. And the last one, your birth mom was there, which was awesome.
Yeah, Jill will be there again. Yes. I think she's always insightful.
Yeah, she's amazing in that. Just all the healing that you and she have done together with your relationship and with yourselves individually. It's just really remarkable watching the two of you. And then, of course, I was always watching your mom, your adoptive mom, and throughout the film. And she was not super happy to be in the film, it seems like, but she said yes eventually, right? And but she wasn't at the Q&A. But I can totally understand. I'm sure it's really difficult for her. How has that been with her after you put out the film?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's still a thing, and I forgot that making a film would be a lot of triggering and processing that I would have to go through with everybody after the film. And it's not even out, but and maybe it's better that it's coming out gradually.
Yeah.
Because just not having people want to come to the Q&A or be supportive is triggering to me. And Jill said she would come to a Q&A in August and then didn't, because the day of, just couldn't do it. And I was trying to be understanding, yeah, of course, if you don't feel comfortable, don't do it. But then I said a really irreverent joke at the Q&A, Jill didn't come, but I'm kind of used to her abandoning me. And no one laughed. But she was actually there. She was just a black square with her name. And I thought that she would jump on to defend herself when I said that, but she didn't. Because that's how that's how I dealt with it, which was really
kind of dark humor,
uncomfortable for everybody else. Yeah. And I got in trouble from the moderator afterwards. But I realized that that's going to happen to me. Like who knows what I'm going to say if I'm triggered and like.
Oh, yeah. Well, the film is very deep into your own pain. And so, geez, and everybody's pain. I mean, this whole story, there's some delightful moments and there's definitely some joy in it, but it's mostly pain. Would you say? It's a lot of pain. And a lot of things that people would not think about that are pain. One of the strongest images for me in the film was you were at a reunion of your birth family and meeting all of these people, and they were so loving to you, and group pictures and everything. And then you took yourself aside with your camera and said, I'm here and I feel so alone. And I feel like I think you said no one wants me even here or something like that. It was the realization that you still had that emptiness inside, even though now you're meeting your birth family and they're warmly accepting you.
Mm-hmm. And do you want to know what triggered that?
Yes.
This is like a question I wonder why people don't ask in Q&As, but there's like a lot that we could go delve more into, because yes, that was great. Everybody was nice. It was fun. And then I saw my sisters, Claire and Candace, leave with my sister-in-law, soon-to-be sister-in-law.
So these are your birth sisters?
Yeah, biological sisters. And I asked Jill where they were all going together, you know?
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, okay, so, because the wedding, this was in the summer, and the wedding was in February. So I wasn't even thinking about the wedding or who was going to be in it yet at all. And then she was like, oh, they have a bridal shower tomorrow morning. So they're all spending the night together in Cincinnati. And then they're going to go to it in the morning. And I was like, I don't know. It just hit me in a way that I was totally unexpected. It was the first time that I felt I'd been in reunion with Jill for like 8 years at that point.
Oh, wow.
So I thought I was good. Like that nothing would happen. It was just this perfect reunion. And then, it was the first time that it was like, okay, you're not really Christopher's sister. Of course, you're not going to be in the wedding or invited to any of this, even though you've been in the family longer than the bride-to-be.
Yeah, right. Oh, that must have been so painful. And they had no idea, I'm sure.
No. And like, they've all seen the movie and they let it all be in there and they understand that like, yeah. Obviously didn't mean anything by that. Yeah. And I'm like, of course, like why? You don't have to.
Yeah.
Ask me to be in the wedding. That's crazy, presumptuous. But at the same time, it's hitting me for the first time that I am not really, where do I fit in? Like another adoptee says in the movie.
Yeah. You're not in that family exactly. And you're not in your other family exactly. It's just like this middle ground. That must be so hard to navigate.
Well, yeah, but it ended up being like a great confessional for the film.
Yeah, it was. It was such a juxtaposition. It really hit me. And it's just like reunion doesn't fix it either, does it? Reunion being, reunited with your birth family, it doesn't like, boom, everything's good now. It doesn't, it probably complicates things even worse. And you had a good reunion, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I'm not in reunion with my birth father. So I don't know. Like I can see that going a lot of the time there's a failed reunion.
Yeah.
And people are even like, well, you and Jill's could still fail. I'm like, okay, thank you. But
yeah, thanks a lot.
I realize that, like, it's continuous.
It's all just people and people in pain and people that made decisions a long time ago when they were in pain and oh my gosh.
But one of the things that's helpful, and so it's great that you do a podcast, because I think listening to podcasts together, like when Jill and I listen to podcasts together, we can't, it takes us like 5 hours to get through one because we're just stopping it every 5 minutes to talk about things that come up that we didn't think of. So I actually think that that's a good tool to maybe fast track getting through all these hard issues.
So what, are you on the phone and listening to one of your...
No, like we did go on a road trip because the film got into the Norwalk Film Festival and we could not figure out flights. So we're like,
road trip.
Let's just drive.
How far away do you live wherever you live normally?
So we left from Mount Vernon, Ohio and drove to Connecticut. So it was like 9 hours.
Oh, wow. So she lives in Ohio. You live in New York.
We took 2 days. Yes. So we were only 6 hours apart by car.
Okay.
So not like crazy. And we had the time because it was over Christmas break. And we hadn't gone on a road trip like that together. But that's always really good for bonding and working stuff out. So I was glad that she was down to do that. Another thing that Martha Carroll would never do, I don't think. Like, we've never really gone on a road trip together.
Martha's your adoptive mother.
Yes, who is like the prototype mom. She's amazing.
I thought it was so cute as your birth mother loved your parents' little marketing packet at the adoption agency because she was an entertainer, like a dinner party kind of entertainer.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Like home ec.
Like a Martha Stewart, yeah.
Yeah, Martha Carroll, like, masters in home ec.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Jill, never grew up cooking or any of that.
Yeah.
So, she says that, like, what was attractive were the things that she didn't have growing up or couldn't offer.
Yeah. I don't know that all the dinner parties helped you. I don't know. It seems like that was the least of your worries is how many dinner parties your family hosted. But it's just interesting because your birth mother was really young and she was making choices. Who knows how those things come up? How old was she? 18?
19, yeah.
19, yeah. What 19-year-old knows what's really important?
And she says a young 19.
Yeah.
Like very immature.
Yeah. Is there going to be another film with all the other things that you wished you could have put in this film?
I know it could be about my reunion with my birth father.
Are you working on that or is that happening?
No.
Okay.
No. I can't even. My dream would be to, like, Netflix is like, don't you want to do a series on this? And then I could highlight other adoptee stories.
Yeah.
Like a 12-part series. That's the dream.
Oh, so hang on a second. You're talking to Netflix about this?
No, I'm not.
Oh.
That's like what I want to I'm trying to manifest that.
Oh, okay.
I have a contact there. Netflix wants to slap their name on everything. So when they heard that it was already done, they weren't like interested. But my new goal is they're not going to say no if there's a ton of demand.
Yeah. So you're getting your adoptee army on board. Is that what you're calling it?
Yes. I'm trying to make it go viral.
Yeah.
But sometimes I get lost in the bubble, of people who think like me and forget that.
Yeah, there are many, many people that don't think like you.
Who don't.
Yeah.
I think there's more. I think that's still the majority.
Way more. I'm pretty sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, from people I talk to on my end of things, I'm the only one that thinks the way I do, except for the people I've talked to that I've or handed them the book. Here, read this book. I think people are still completely blind to what adoption does to people. Oh gosh, so many healthcare providers, when I've taken Joey to different places to try to get him help, I'd say, listen, he was adopted by me at 7 months old. He has major attachment issues. And I know that most of his mental health and addiction issues are related to his adoption trauma. And they'd be like, oh, he was only 7 months old. He doesn't remember that. I'm like, what? I couldn't believe it. And this was a psychiatrist that was telling me this. I was like, are you kidding me? Where did you get your degree from?
Seriously?
Because that pain when you're 7 months old is absolutely there. It's just not in your words because you don't have words yet. So it lives in your body. It lives in your soul. It lives in your memory that you can't even remember, but it is certainly there. And it came out for my son as soon as he hit puberty and adolescence. Identity issues came up. He's Asian and I'm white. And boom, we're off to the races. So it was all fine. I thought, oh, we're such good adoptive parents. We did such a good job. And then bam, everything just fell apart.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it was for me and my brother too.
Yeah. Was it adolescence when it hit you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's how, as I understand, that's when it happens. Because that's when you're trying to figure out who you are.
It happens to everybody, right?
Everybody falls off their rails in adolescence to some degree.
Or don't. And then it's like, if you have the resilience, because obviously there are lots of adoptees who never do and fall off the rails. Right. But I think there's more that do. And then some do later, not even in adolescence.
Yeah. And I think
but
some never...
not having the support, I don't know.
How
It's
did
like,
you fall off
how
the
do you
rails? What
prevent
did it
that?
look like for you? Whatever you're willing to tell us.
Yeah.
Partying and rebelling?
Yeah, like skipping school, kind of probably hanging out with the wrong people. But there was a lack of trust, too, from my parents that I never felt was there.
They were pretty strict, right?
Yeah, they were really quite strict, which I understand, but I have a Frankie Joe now, and I don't know what I'll do when she's a teenager.
She's like 4?
4.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And my friends with older kids are like, it gets harder. But, you still want to be like, I'll cross that bridge when I get there. Yeah. But I don't know if, like, just taking the stance of never trust a teenager is the way to go.
Yeah.
Because then I felt like nothing I said, even when it was the truth, was believed. So I just stopped telling the truth.
Yeah, you sort of give up. I'm like, well, why even try now? Yeah.
Yeah, like, I've got to get out of here. Why is my curfew 9 p.m.? Like, and so it was just mostly rebelling against the strictness.
And your brother had a similar experience when he was a teenager?
He was introduced to alcohol at 14 and then just drank every day, a lot from then until a couple years ago when we almost lost him.
Wow.
And now he's been sober for, I think, almost 2 years.
Wow. Congratulations to him. Thank God. Yeah.
Oh, but my mom was planning his funeral. Oh. It was bad.
I bet. I can imagine that because I've been to my son's funeral 100 million times in my head. It's so scary because especially nowadays, whatever you're using, well, maybe not alcohol, but any street drug, you can be laced with fentanyl and then it's all over. And then, or alcohol is certainly able to kill people very easily. So it's terrifying for those of us around people who are addicted. That's for sure. But I empathize so deeply with my son because fuck, I'd probably want to use drugs too. Honestly, I mean, give me something to ease this pain. His pain is so intense and deep and primal, like the title of her book, The Primal Wound. When something is primal, it's like, I believe Joey's issues started before he was even born because his birth mother was very, very young and it was clear that she was not going to keep him. And well, you were pregnant when you were making this film. You put your headphones on your baby bump so they can hear the music. And obviously, people realize that babies in utero can feel stuff. And you talk to them and you take care of your health and all that. Well, okay. If you realize that in utero is important, guess what? My kid got nothing in utero. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was very traumatic for his birth mom. So how can that not affect someone?
I know. It's weird because there are studies about it the other way. And so, I mean, it is hard to scientifically corroborate the primal wound, like my mom says in the film. But no one's going to okay those kind of studies.
Right.
Baby. You can't.
Right. You can't. But you're saying they have studies saying, if you talk to your baby in utero and if you're very connected,
they have
it turns out
those.
better.
And you can prove, like in Nancy's second book, Coming Home to Self, is all about the neurological effects and what happens when you break those synapses. Like the first part, I don't know if you've read it.
I haven't read that one yet.
It's longer and it's came out after The Primal Wound, but I thought it was fascinating. I tried to pick some things from this book too to put in the movie. It's all the things about siblings and then the neuro pathways. So I just hinted at that.
At it. Yeah. It's fascinating that Nancy herself is an adoptive mom. And it has become this adoptees Bible. And I thought all adopted parents read it because I thought everyone was like me. And I guess everyone has their own experience. You have your own filter. But from what you're saying, you don't talk to very many adoptive parents at all on this topic.
No. I mean, a few woke ones like yourself, but no. And then on TikTok, it's whoa.
They're anti,
they're anti this message.
Yeah. It is a threat to adoptive parents because they're saying, well, basically, we did the wrong thing, which I think I did the wrong thing. Not that I wouldn't adopt Joey again. It's not that I'm not giving up on Joey. You're saying I would not adopt him again, but I personally would not adopt again.
Great.
If I were to start all over, I would not have adopted now that I know what I know. Is that what you're hoping, that people will shift? Are you hoping to have fewer adoptions?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's hard to turn into an anti-adoption advocate and be like an activist on that, because that is also very like, and like Nancy says, she's not anti-adoption. A lot of people are. And the more I do this and talk to people, though, the more I am.
Yeah.
But it's because you can have kinship adoptions and like there's other solutions, and gosh, I don't know.
Yeah, it's so complex, and there's probably no like blanket answer. This is what everyone should do. It's very individual, and everyone always says, well, there are some kids that should never go back to their birth parents because they're, abusive. Okay. But maybe don't rip them from their whole country. I'm just saying, like in my case, Joey is from Japan. Maybe don't take him away from his whole country. Maybe there's somebody in the country.
Seriously, it's like mother loss and culture loss are traumatic.
Huge. And then for my son, he got bullied relentlessly for being Asian. So, and that caused a lot. I mean, it caused suicide attempts. And so, criminy, just keep them. So like if the birth parents are absolutely incapable or dead or whatever, keep them close to where their other family is, or where the location where they are, the culture where they were born. Anyway, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm thinking. But I bet when you were filming this and you were pregnant with your baby and then you gave birth and all of that, did that make you really think about what your birth mother did for you? I mean, did you look at your baby and go, oh my God, how could anyone relinquish a child? Did that hit you?
Well, I'd already thought that, but yeah, and Jill was there when I gave birth.
Yeah.
So, and also it's just now hitting me that during that day when I was in labor and I was filming, I had the camera. And so I think a disassociative thing I do and a coping thing I do is film.
Yeah.
And have a camera between me and like real
reality.
life.
Yeah.
And I had that there that day. So, and I was thinking about the film.
Yeah.
So weird. Like, what is wrong with me? But so I still don't know, because everyone asked me that question and I'm like, yes, but honestly, maybe I haven't processed that.
I'm sure it's very difficult. I don't know.
Like go into this disassociative, like, how can you? Because I am obsessed with Frankie Jo.
Yeah. And
give her all the mommy she could want.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I can't. So yeah, I cannot imagine. And Jill even can't either. If you watch the whole movie, Jill's like, what was I, it messed her up forever.
Yeah.
You never get over that.
Yeah. There's so much pain on all sides. Everybody is just suffering and trying to make things work the best that they can with what they've been given, what information and what kind of cards they've been given, You
want to listen to people telling you what to do when you don't know what to do. And if people are telling you, it's going to be best for the baby.
Yeah. And when you're 19, a young 19, and
you're like, okay, you're right.
I guess I got to do what's best for the baby. There's a lot of coercion and there's a lot of money involved. I'm not sure about your birth mother. I'm not saying that.
She just realized there was money. She's like, I didn't get any of that money. And I was like,
oh, shoot.
I know. I don't know.
Her parents got it or she just
didn't
get it?
No.
Nobody got it.
But it's like, why aren't we supporting birth mothers if there's all this money?
Yeah, right. If there's money enough to pay to have your child relinquished, why don't we just pay the birth mothers to keep their children? If it's a poverty issue or if they're so young they can't manage a job and a child and all that, there's money. Obviously, there's money because it's a huge industry, the adoption industry.
Yeah, so, and that's why it's like a supply and demand thing that they're trying to figure out how to get more supply right now. And that's interesting to follow.
Yeah, it's pretty dark, isn't it?
Yes. It seems so obvious to people like, I don't know, us maybe.
Yeah.
Or adoptees.
It's hard for people to look at that.
That today covered it and had 4 adoptee voices last month, that article on today.com, which is awesome.
Oh, really?
It's like, you know what, adoptees are not going to be a pawn in this, like, for these anti-choice people. Like, you can't talk about adoption and abortion in the same sentence. Like, it's not.
You know, that is super huge right now because abortion is kind of going down. We're going to be outlawing abortion again pretty soon. And then people are like, well, just adopt. And then how do you adoptees feel about all that? What does that do for you? Like when you hear...
Yeah, it's not good. And I'm glad that adoptees are speaking out and saying, please do not equate the two and use us as pawns, because we honestly don't like being adopted.
Yeah, it is not the solution. It's not like, if you can't do this, then do this other thing. No.
And that's one thing I hope people get out of the film. It's like, oh, okay, let's maybe listen and examine how much grief is actually, and how many other lives are like affected by adoption.
Yeah. Have you ever experienced that people don't realize adopted people grow up and become adults? Do you feel infantilized?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. And I think all adoptees, or most adoptees, know that it happens to us all the time. But then when you ask for a specific example, it's like, whoa, I don't know. It just happens all the time. But I do think this is a good example. Like, one of my friends that's known I was adopted, she's actually a friend who will say to me that her other best friend is adopted too and has no problems whenever I say anything. So to set that up, and she'll do things like, okay, we were on a work trip in Los Angeles, and I had just had this bizarre kind of scary thing happen to me where someone knocked on my door and tried to, and it was a man, ask to borrow my hairdryer in the hotel. And I had to say no like 5 times. And this person wasn't there yet, but she was on her way. And so I was calling her after the situation resolved, and I like stayed in and did not open my door. And she got back like 5 minutes later, and I called the front desk to report it because we decided that's what I should do. And while I was telling them what happened, she took the phone away from me. Mind you, she wasn't there. She didn't actually witness anything, because I guess I was telling what happened wrong, or she could do better.
Oh my goodness.
And she proceeded to tell the front desk what happened to me. So that made me feel that infantilized way where like I can't do things correctly, or probably somebody else can do better than me, even telling my own story or something that had literally just happened to me. And I don't know if that's like a perfect example. I don't know if that's her personality and what she would do to anybody. That's what I like wonder if we do a lot of the times. And then of course, being a woman, it's like, do I get infantilized by men or father figures because I'm a woman and not because I'm an adoptee? But then you can really like look at examples like this, and then you can't possibly know how to take care of yourself. Let me help you. I don't know. I just think that's maybe a good example. But thanks for asking that. And I hope that people maybe check themselves if they are prescribing or patronizing an adoptee, not giving them agency to handle their own business, because guess what? We're grown up and we can. So please stop.
Yeah. Do you feel like people pat you on the head and go, oh, that's so sweet. She's having trouble.
Yeah, totally.
But just the feeling that you're not quite equal. You're not quite grown up.
Yes.
Because when you think adoption, you think little baby. I guess that's why. And people, you have to remember they grow up and then they're mommies themselves. And, just all that pain just continues.
Which is why I'm so glad Nico Opper says that in the film.
This is the other documentarian.
Yes, who did Often Running, which is great, and about transracial adoption. And so I like pointing to Avery's story, because that's like a kind of the criticism I get, is that I didn't do it on a transracial or intercountry adoptee. But it's like, well, I had to do it on my story. Because first of all, like, yes, I could have done that, but my story, and I don't think it's me, but I do think Jill and Frankie Joe and even Martha Carroll are like magical people
Oh,
whose stories are really compelling and needed to be told. And so maybe I'm the conduit for that, and Nancy's, like, bringing Nancy's work to more people.
No, I think yours was great because it was so personal. If you were putting the lens at somebody else's story, it would be a whole different deal.
Yes.
But there's probably room for somebody else to make a movie about another movie.
Exactly. And I am so into adoptees telling their story in some way or another. So, like, just more. Give us more content. And please watch my film before you write it off.
Yeah, really. Do you like it when people comment on TikTok or Twitter or whatever and haven't even seen your film yet?
Well, that's what's happening with the criticism. So, like, if some adoptees don't like adoptive parents, they're just like, full stop. So Nancy is an adoptive parent, so they're not going to read the Primal Wound or promote anything that has to do with the Primal Wound. Certainly not the movie. And I'm like, okay, there's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah.
But I do wish you would give it a chance.
Yeah.
Before you do that. And also, Nancy is the sweetest, kindest person, and she's dedicated the majority of her life to like amplifying adoptee voices.
Yeah.
And she is an ally. Like, yes, she's an adoptive parent, but how many adoptive parents do you know are going to admit that they didn't know what they were doing, and like that adoption is kind of like messed up?
Yeah. Yeah. And she wrote that, what, in the 90s?
1993.
93. Yeah. She was willing to put herself out there in a big way. Right. So I don't know, but I can understand adoptees are like, nope, not going to go there because they've been so wounded. I can understand that.
Yeah. There's a lot of that, but I want adoptees to know that I'm definitely for them and want more of our voices out there.
That's right.
I hope Reckoning can have a bigger platform and I can be more influential just so I can like hype more adoptees.
That's right.
And like, that's what the series would be. It'd be like, I know I'm getting so many other stories. I am a same race domestic adoptee. And that's like, a lot of people can relate to that. But again, there are so many varied stories, diverse stories out there that are like jaw dropping. Like, I didn't think about that. Well, the Mercer Hospital, like in Ontario or whatever, where they used to arrest women for being pregnant because they were unmanageable and then take the baby. Like,
oh my gosh.
What? I didn't know that.
Oh, that's terrible.
So I'm like learning all these things.
I never heard of that either. Wow.
Have documentaries already. But I'll definitely build out the resources page on our website. And like, I love pointing to these stories. Because I do realize you can't, put everything in 90 minutes.
No. Well, and your story was so compelling in so many different ways. But yeah, there's so many different stories, but you can't do everyone's story all at once. You have to pick one pretty much, right? And your story was really, really impactful. And I think a lot of people, maybe because it's same race domestic, you kind of checked off a couple of things you didn't have to deal with. Totally. So you were just able to just hone in on just the plain old relinquishment trauma. You don't have the cross-cultural stuff. You don't have the interracial stuff that adds layers. Not that it makes it worse or better, but you just focus right in on that core piece, which I think is really valuable.
Awesome. Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to do. And I told my husband that I am just trying to microdose the general population with a little bit of adoption trauma. And he goes, okay, well, you macrodosed them with this movie. I'm like, I know, it's kind of dense, but yeah, that was the point. It was just like a mild get curious and then think about what it would be like for intercountry adoptees or transracial adoptees.
And there's millions of books out there and other documentaries, and there's all sorts of directions people can go once they get interested or invested in this topic. I love the podcast Adoptees On. There's so many great podcasts, and the Adoptees Connect. Is that what that's called?
Adoptees Connect. Yeah.
Adoptees Connect.
So they have if they don't have one in your town, you can start one.
Yeah.
Hit up Pamela Caranova.
Yeah. There's so many resources. I'll list some of the resources in the notes for this show.
And then Amanda Baden's in the film, who is a intercountry adoptee from China and an academic.
Oh, yeah. Her voice was really interesting. She talked about that infantilization too.
because her students would even still refer to adult adoptees as children. I think that's the quote.
That's right. Yes, 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 yes. Oh my gosh. Now, okay, so Nakao in your film made the other documentary and has adopted a Black child, right? They're white.
Yes.
Adopted a Black child. What advice would you have for them?
Oh gosh. Well, they are doing it right, and I'm just in awe of Nakao. They even made a series called The F Word about it, so you can watch what they've done, but they're really prioritizing the birth family.
Foster is the F word?
Yes. The F word is foster.
Okay.
They fostered to adopt and are in touch. He's not going to not remember knowing his biological family because they prioritize that and like talk about it all the time. So he's Frankie Joe's age though, so he's still really young.
But they're doing things the quote unquote right way as well as they could do, right?
Yeah, and it's just simple things like lighting a candle on your birthday for your mom, your first mom, and then you can talk about it at least once a year, you know, and have a reason to. But they also go to like family reunions and in the same area, so it's easier.
Okay, so what about my son? He's 18, just on the major struggle bus, and he is definitely aware of his adoption trauma. He's worked through a lot of his early childhood struggle, kind of subconscious stuff with Miguel, who I talked about on the podcast various times. He has worked on some of it. As soon as I read The Primal Wound, I got an adoption therapist for myself and for him. And so he is definitely aware. It doesn't make it any better because now he's like really aware of why he's traumatized. But would you suggest that I continue to try to, steer him that direction, or just let it go, let it come up whenever he wants? Is it better for us to keep bringing it up and say, how does that make you feel? Have you thought about your birth parents lately?
I think so. I don't know, but I do know that a lot of things were kept from me, and that was hurtful. And so secrets, betrayal, like if there are secrets, that's going to lead to feelings of betrayal, which I think are more damaging. So checking in, I definitely think is good.
Checking in is good. Yeah. My adoption therapist told me he's definitely thinking about it. You asking him a question will not all of a sudden make him think about it.
No, the ruminating is there.
As an adoptee, do you think about it every day?
Oh, every day. I mean,
well, you did a whole movie on it.
I do think that what David Brzezinski says in the film about ruminating is real. So yeah, after my parents were like, you have another mommy and daddy out there, something definitely shifted for me. I was 4, I think.
Okay.
But I remember life before then a little. And then I remember on the walk to school, I think I would think about her and just wonder like very mild questions. Like, did she love me?
Yeah.
And then it would just progress as you get older, you're like, wait, did she love me? And then like, give me a half a water bottle full of Jack while I think about that question. Right. When I was 16 and I totally passed out.
Yeah.
I think that was the first time I drank alcohol. And I don't know if it was because of that, but I'm just saying like the evolution of that question.
You can see why that
like
would be
what
so
it means.
Painful.
Exactly. Like, you just try to
I don't want to think about that
deal
anymore.
With that the way that you deal with it. And I don't have an addictive personality. And I think that's the only reason,
thank God,
okay, quote unquote. Because people see me and they're like, well, you're fine. So what are you talking about? I'm like, oh, survival. And like, yes, making the most of the life you were given is one thing.
Yeah.
But like, it took me forever to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing and who I am. And like,
oh yeah,
I still don't feel like I'm worth a salary. I don't think. I've always had a hard time making money or feeling like I deserve to be paid for work I do. Just very devalued.
Yeah.
As far as professional.
Yeah.
And I don't see that in like other people.
Right. And that's Joey's core issue is he doesn't feel worth love. He doesn't feel worth being on the planet.
Yeah.
And so I can easily see how that could relate to or translate to salary. Like I'm not worth anyone paying me to do this, but you totally are. You totally are. But
Thank you.
I can understand that.
But it's taking me until now. And I'm literally, because I might as well just own it because my birth certificate's in the movie. But I will be 40 this year, and I feel like I'm just now feeling like, okay, yeah, people get paid so much money to do things and they'll just take it and make it.
Oh, yeah.
And I do feel like the movie is worth something. And
definitely.
The reaction has been like, but still I've gotten, like, people don't want to pay the licensing fee. They think it's too high. And like, I don't know. So I'm just over that. I'm like, no. If you Google licensing fees, mine's on the very low end of what
your licensing
the range
is very, very reasonable.
So I'm still like, not devaluing, but I don't know. It's just interesting. And I think that's just what people do. Like, they always try to get a deal.
Yeah. There are people that just always want less.
Yeah. That's probably just a negotiation tactic that I'm going to read as.
They don't think I'm worth it. Yeah.
They really don't think it's worth it. But
well, it's totally worth it. I loved your film. Everybody should go see it.
You can rent it this month on Eventbrite, and then we're doing the screening on February 26th. And then I'll have to come back on when it's got an actual release date.
Yeah, okay. I don't understand how films work. Where will you release it?
That's what we're trying to figure out.
Will it go to the theaters?
That's what I want.
Yeah.
I want a theatrical release or a streaming deal. And we're doing the film festival circuit this year to try to garner a sales agent that would help us
is that how
get
that
one of those things.
Wow.
Yeah.
If anyone knows someone in the industry.
I feel like the more we do these little screenings and the more people know about it, somebody will just know. And Jenna is in Hollywood, so something will happen.
Oh, yes. It'll get into the right hands and somebody will be like, I'm taking this as far as it will go, right? And you'll be in theaters or on one of the streaming platforms, and then everyone can see it whenever they want, right? So right now you kind of have to wait until you have an opportunity to stream it, right?
Yeah, but at least we can do these private screenings.
I think that's awesome because I would never be able to fly to a film festival. So, thanks COVID for making the
I know, I'm a big proponent of options, and like, you could watch it today if you rent it. I'll send you the link.
Okay. I'll drop all the links to all the things in the description. So, and if you're listening to it after February 2022, I'll try to update the description, but just Google it. Reckoning with the Primal Wound. Just Google it.
I update it all the time. And you can even be in the adoptee army still. There's a form on the website. That was such a huge growth thing. I was like, I can update the movie since it's not out.
Yeah. I noticed how long that was. So at the end credits, at the very, very end, Rebecca has listed her adoptee army and then birth parent army. And
like, you could have this exclusive announcement on your podcast if you want, because I do have a space for adoptive parent army.
Woo-hoo!
No one's on it yet, but like, why not?
Yeah. Well, I'm on it.
You're in the real credits, but now I want to have like a adoptive parent army.
Oh, I see. So you can
also wants to feels like we should center adoptees in the narrative.
Definitely
and agrees with the Primal Wound.
Excellent. So anyone in the adoption triad who wants to support this message, you can get into the adoptee army. Is that what you're calling it? Okay.
Even an ally.
Even an ally. Oh, yay. There's many people that can hop on board here, even if you're not touched by adoption personally. Everybody knows someone who's adopted, right? So it's definitely an area that our culture needs to continue to work on and think critically about, and think, okay, how can we do this better? And how can we make lives easier for people who have been adopted?
Yes.
Oh, is there anything that I didn't ask you about that you'd like to talk about?
No, I think that was a fun conversation. We covered a lot, right?
Do you want to plug your record company at all?
Oh, yeah. If you like pop music, check out Blonde Records roster. I've got M. the Myth, Goldilocks, and Celeste Krishna right now. So Blonde Records, and we do the Wavy Awards, which got mentioned in the New York Times and Billboard and like the Hollywood Reporter a couple weeks ago.
What are the Wavy
Awards is on YouTube.
Oh, okay. What is
you can watch the whole thing.
What kind of things do you award?
Well, we are highlighting historically excluded talent. So mostly women, LGBTQ, non-binary, gender non-conforming, and artists of color and artists who identify with having a disability. So
nice. I love that. You're doing so many great things in the world to highlight voices that typically have been squelched. So with Adoptees and all of the people you're representing with your record company, I appreciate that. I appreciate all that you're doing to make life better for everybody. So
oh, thank you, Beth. Same with you.
Oh, thanks
you. For doing a podcast about it too.
Thanks. Just trying to, for me, I'm always keeping my son in mind, but all the stuff that my son's dealing with, a lot of other people are dealing with too. So if our little corners can help, if our little corners of the world can help other people, that's great. That's a good goal.
Agreed. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you all for listening to Safe Home Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And please find Rebecca's film and find Safe Home Podcast on all the socials and all the places. And we are also on Patreon if you would like to support us with just a couple bucks a month. Patreon makes it really easy. Patreon.com/safehome. And please share this episode with anyone you know that's involved at all with adoption as an adoptee, adoptive parent, or birth parent. I'm sure they would love to hear about Rebecca's film and her story. And the more we can share these stories with each other, the better. Word of mouth is the best way. So thank you, everyone, for listening. And Rebecca and I hope you stay safe.